You guys remember that amazing scene in Skyfall, right? The one where Bond and M have to escape from London to Scotland. They walk down a side street, the garage doors roll up, revealing an original DB5, and they speed off into the night. Well, that gave us here at Autotrader a bit of an idea, and down this particular side street, there's something just as exciting as the DB5 waiting for me behind these closed doors.
In the film, James says that they're going to travel back in time, but we're going to do the exact opposite, starting in the past at Nicholas Mee's glorious heritage workshop here in West London, and exploring Aston Martin's future through the prism of its latest and possibly greatest model, the DB11. This car represents the dawn of a new era for the company in every sense. A bold, modern design, underpinned with a brand new chassis, the latest technology from new partner Mercedes, and, most importantly, a new twin-turbo 5.2-litre V12 beneath the bonnet.
Except on our trip up to Scotland, instead of having Dame Judi Dench sat next to me in the passenger seat complaining about the ride, I'll be accompanied by John Quirk and Ivan Astrup. And as with our previous adventures, we're looking to really get under the skin of the people who actually buy cars like this one.
We'll give you a taste of buying and owning one of these cars, and unfortunately that's going to involve a little bit of decorum, which may well be our biggest challenge yet.
Obviously, we all know the best way to assess a GT is to go for a really long drive.
Trouble is, boys, I'm not sure we're going to fit in here. Not for driving the whole length of the country, anyway.
But in the books, didn't 007 actually drive a Bentley 4.5?
Yeah, he did.
And I know our budget can't exactly stretch that far, and Ivan, you'd probably end up dying of hypothermia in an open top in Scotland. So maybe we need to consider something a bit more luxurious.
Yeah, something a little more upmarket, up Ivan Street, I'd say. Actually, I do know a good place for picking up something luxurious in West London. I think it's time to go shopping, boys. Westfield might seem like an odd place to go car shopping, but it's also the home of the brand new Bentley Studio London, a modern take on a dealership that allows owners to tailor a car to their own tastes, even making suggestions based on their facial expressions and emotional responses. We used it to pick out the perfect options for our Continental GT. I think we're done.
Yeah. I think that's the one.
Yeah? You happy?
Get that button pushed.
All right, let's do it.
That looks really good.
Okay, we're going to order?
Hit the button.
Lovely stuff. Now, it's going to be 3-month wait, I think.
We are going to need it a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, Aston are going to let us keep the DB11 for 3 months. Be nice, though.
Yeah.
What are you going to drive?
Oh, boys, have I got a treat for you? Come on, I'll show you. To add a little spice into the mix, we've taken the short hop from West London down to Woking to pick up a rather different, more exciting take on the classic British GT, the McLaren 570 GT. McLaren Automotive might be younger than the wood in a Bentley's dashboard, but don't count it out just yet. The company's gone from strength to strength, but can a two-seater from the Sport Series cut it with 2+2 blue bloods like the DB11 and the Conti?
While John picked up the McLaren, we rolled 80 miles north to Gaydon to get a taste of the VIP experience at Aston Martin Lagonda. The factory is a careful mix of old-world luxury and modern chic, with a stunning atrium that greets you as you walk across the surrounding moat, and quiet rooms for discussing your preferred colour and specification.
By the time we reach Bentley's home in Crewe, completing our whistle-stop tour of the various HQs of Britain's most exclusive car companies, our Conti GT V8S was sat ready and waiting, complete with the monitor driving and Premier specifications we ordered in London, plus all the usual refinements. Granted, the V8S isn't the fastest version of the Continental, but thanks to its lower weight and sweeter sound, it's arguably the best.
So here's our trio of hand-built British GTs, all with a very individual take on exactly the right formula for travelling in speed, style and luxury.
So with that in mind, it's time to find out if these 3 cars can carry us all in total comfort from here in Crewe near the home of Bentley, north of the border to the Scottish capital and our first stop.
On our arrival into Edinburgh, we stopped for a quick discussion about which of our cars had performed best in our long-distance comfort test. And what better place to do that than Fettes College, the school where, according to Chapter 21 of You Only Live Twice, James Bond himself spent his formative years.
That was so much fun.
It was really good. I'm pretty relaxed still though, I've got to be honest with you. I'm feeling fresh. What about you guys?
I am absolutely peachy. I've had a nice little massage off my seat, cruise control's been on. Shirt's a bit crumpled, but other than that...
Well, this thing's got heated seats as well, you know. I've been fresh as a daisy in that thing.
Comfort test, a 3-way tie.
The only thing is, I have used a shed load of fuel in that thing. So have you guys got any ideas how we go about making some extra fuel money?
I hadn't actually had a thought about that, but I don't think you're going to like it.
Oh, Paul, I hate it when he says this.
Me
Come
too.
No, it's a good idea. Come on guys, it's going to be fine. Follow me. Now, we may know plenty about cars at Auto Trader, but we don't really know the first thing about luxury or style, so we thought it probably best to talk to some people that do, which is why we've hired ourselves out as VIP chauffeurs for the evening to get our high-class clientele's take on what these cars are like. It's interesting that you ordered 3 cars, one for each of you.
Oh, I know. The family.
So who's your mate John then?
Guy I work with, he's
Is he all right? I mean, is he on the level?
yeah, he's grand.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that this is simply a subtle variation of the McLaren 570S.
Why'd you ask?
Well, he's got my daughter Vanessa in the car there, and she can get quite excitable on evenings like this when we're going off to a function.
I think it's good for maybe like a couple.
Yeah.
Obviously the back's a little bit small, you know, for the
You like a bigger back seat, do you think?
family. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Who doesn't want a bigger back seat? What time do you think we'll be there at?
Well, I think we should be there fairly soon, but I'll pop it in a bit of a sportier mode and we can get there a little bit quicker.
You're actually sat in a carbon fibre monocell, which is really, really rigid and strong, so it's great for the steering of this car.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a gentleman's club on wheels.
That's it. I'm thinking of the Ritz, but you're right. It's more like a gentleman's club, isn't it?
Is there anything you don't like?
The only thing I've noticed is just the sat nav isn't particularly as modern as I think my one would be.
You are right about that.
Okay, and then
Is that it? Oh! I don't think my husband would ever drive like this.
do you not?
No.
Do you think your daughter will be alright in the McLaren?
She does scare easily, but I'm sure she'll be absolutely loving it.
Sorry. It doesn't have parking sensors.
No, I do like it. Something a little bit different, than your normal taxi.
Yeah, here we are down by the water.
Ah, okay. Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I was having fun.
I feel like it was all over a bit quickly.
No, it was, wasn't it?
I think that's it. Okay. Sorry. Really nice to meet you.
What a hassle. What was your last name?
It's Bond. See, that wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Paul, come on. It was
Really?
pretty weird.
I had fun.
But in terms of the test, I see where you were going. It's about making the ultimate statement, how to arrive in the best style. And I honestly thought the McLaren would have this contest licked, but as soon as those dihedral doors come up, any sort of sense of decorum in evening wear especially goes out the window.
Which is a shame because it's bright purple and it looks cool when that happens.
But wasn't the Bentley, in objective terms, just very, very good at this sort of service?
You'd think that, again, you would think that the Bentley would nail this test. It's got the best low-speed ride,
Yeah.
it's the quietest, it's the roomiest, it's the nicest inside.
Easiest to get into.
Easiest to get in and out of. So, you know, as the best passenger car, easy. But the problem with it is, it's an old car and people recognise it. And the other two are brand spankers, so they've just got that much more drama.
Yeah, I see
and you know, through no fault of its own, it's what the Bentley's lacking. And when it comes to arriving in style, It's kind of important.
There's nothing like the shock of the new, and that kind of a completely bold new shape of an Aston Martin, still with some of that graceful lines from the old cars like the DB9. It's a good combination. I mean, it gets a lot of looks on the road, and it got a lot of looks on the docks. When you're living in uncertain and politically volatile times, putting your money in the right place becomes even more important, which is why we brought our shiny GTs here to the Royal Bank of Scotland HQ to see which of these cars is the soundest investment.
Now, you don't exactly need the deductive powers of DCI Taggart to figure out that these cars are the preserve of the fabulously wealthy.
Of course, if you can afford to buy one of these cars, then it's likely you can afford to buy all of them. And you probably will if the mood takes you.
At that sort of money, these cars aren't only competing with each other, or even other cars for that matter, they're also competing with other major luxury investments. A chalet in Chamonix, a share in a racehorse, or even the first step on the property ladder for your eldest child. In the world of the wealthy, it could be literally anything.
Of course, if you are wealthy enough to afford one, then you're probably wealthy enough to go nuts on the extensive options lists as well. But we reckon you need to set aside at least 15 grand at a bare minimum.
There is some common ground among the three. Each allows you to specify carbon ceramic brakes, sports exhaust, and an audiophile's dream stereo, while inside, the cabin upgrades run the entire gamut, from traditional woods and leathers with names such as Strathmore and Balmoral, right through to high-gloss broken carbon.
However, there are a few mad surprises for the most demanding of customers. For example, Aston Martin will let you put the engine bay, oil cap and dipstick in gold finish if you so choose. With the Bentley, it's diamond-turned wheels of the Mulliner driving specification, which also includes quilted leather seats and alloy pedals, is a must-have. And with McLaren, if you choose to talk to their MSO Special Operations team, you can have every grey surface you see on the exterior covered in carbon fibre, from the front splitter to the side skirts and even the entire rear panel.
Of course, it's also true that even the wealthiest folk don't stay wealthy for very long if they simply throw their money away. That's what separates the haves from the have-mores. That's why it's essential that the running costs aren't too crazy. Now, we're not talking about all that usual stuff that you and I worry about. Insurance costs are going to be similarly crazy across the board, and the differences in fuel economy are going to be so minute as to be completely irrelevant. It's the size of your tank that will determine how far you can go, not the efficiency of your engine. For the record though, it is the Bentley that holds the most super unleaded, and thus has the best touring range.
From a pounds to pence perspective though, by far the biggest running cost will be depreciation. After all, any investment needs protecting.
And on that note, the exclusivity of the Aston really does make its difference felt. After just 3 years, the Bentley will be worth just over 40% of its £150,000 list price, which is a similar drop in value to a high-spec 911 Turbo S, but nowhere near close to the almost 60% of the DB11. The upshot being an extra £16,645 in your pocket, or in other words, a Breitling watch and a Hermes Birkin bag. It's much more difficult to pin down how much you'll have left if you buy the McLaren, but with so much personalisation available, it really will depend on the spec you go for, but expect it to sit closer to the Aston than the Bentley. For a detailed breakdown of the other running costs, pause your video right now.
After learning about our car's worth, luxury status and cruising ability, we headed north over the Forth Bridge, leaving Edinburgh behind, and went in search of quieter roads and some epic scenery worthy of any Bond film. Truth is, you don't need to travel to the ends of the earth to find world-class driving roads. Here they are, right on our doorstep. You might recognise one or two of them as well, because it was here, near Glencoe in the Western Highlands, where much of Skyfall was filmed. And these are roads on which our cars really need to impress. Yes, a good GT needs the ride and refinement to deliver you to your destination in comfort, plus the glamour to deliver you in style. But what's the point if you're not relishing every moment of every mile on the way?
The valleys of Glencoe and Glenateeve provide vast stretches of winding open road that were made for cars like these, but the best way to find out more about our own cars was of course to swap and compare with the other two, so changes and fights over keys were frequent.
I'm driving a brand new Aston Martin, and those are words that I've been waiting to say for a very long time. Recent models might have been no less scintillating or beautiful than their iconic forebears, but dynamically at least, Astons have stood still while the rest of the world has moved on. The DB11 though is a brand new chapter in a whole new novel. A car that simply has to succeed for this company. This is a bona fide 200-mile-an-hour GT with 600 brake horsepower, and it'll catapult you from 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. And on the road, it feels every bit as fast and rabid as those figures suggest. It growls tunefully at low speeds, but then builds into this full-chested bellow at the higher reaches of the rev range. All that performance and rear-wheel drive does make it a bit of a handful though, and because there's such a wall of torque from the turbochargers in the mid-range, you can break traction pretty much at will, sometimes unintentionally. It is a little intimidating at first, but after a while you do start to find your rhythm. The lighter, stiffer chassis and this quick, surprisingly feelsome electromechanical steering means you can stay on top of most of the wayward behaviour. It takes a while to really gel with the controls too, but eventually it all starts pulling together, and you learn to just steadily meter out that throttle so you don't throw the rear end all over the road. However, it isn't perfect, and the main thing is that when you're not driving like your hair's on fire, the ride is on the hard and brittle side for a GT. We'd probably stay away from the stiffest settings on those Bilstein adaptive dampers unless you're on the smoothest of surfaces. And while the technology on board makes the Aston feel like a MacBook laptop compared to the Bentley ZF Spectrum, some of the plastics which have also been borrowed from that brand do rob this cabin of the specialness that you just come to expect and take for granted at this price. Even so, if you love your GT cars to be exciting, edgy and a bit raw, then you'll love the DB11.
By rights, the Bentley should be absolutely nowhere in this test. While the other two cars are brand spanking, this thing has already been on sale for well over a decade. Quite simply, the Conti feels as fresh and as solid as it ever has, especially in its primary role as a Grand Tourer. As a high miler, this thing has its two rivals here absolutely licked. And those attributes, as well as the fact that it's got the most lavish interior, the best access, the most cabin space and the biggest boot, also mean that this thing is by far your best option of the three if you're looking for a daily driver. Even more impressive than all that though is the fact that the Continental GT can still more than hold its own on roads like these. Now granted, it is by far and away the biggest, heaviest car here, and you can certainly feel that, especially in tighter corners and when you're hard on the brakes. After all, physics always wins in the end. But while it will never be as agile as the other two cars, it still changes direction with incredible precision and poise for such a big car. The compliance in that air suspension helps keep the tyres in contact with the road, and the body control on display is really very impressive. However, the really crucial bit is the grip and the traction you get from the Bentley's four-wheel drive. Yes, the two rear drive rivals feel a bit like they're dancing along the road on their tippy toes, being all delicate and adjustable. The Bentley, meanwhile, feels like it's marching along in its hobnail boot, never missing a beat, never getting flustered, never feeling anything less than completely and utterly assured, thanks to an absolute shed load of torque and a very effective 8-speed automatic gearbox. You'll be slingshot up the road at a rate that will surprise and delight in equal measure. If you're feeling really naughty, you can turn this engine into an absolute nutcase. If you keep those revs upwards of 4,000 RPM and then lift off the throttle, you are treated to one of the best noises anywhere in motoring.
It's difficult to know where to begin when assessing the dynamic abilities of the McLaren 570 GT, so let's start with that moniker. The numbers 570 representing 570 PS, or in our world, 562 brake horsepower, and GT meaning Grand Tourer. Now of course, while this may be McLaren's most road biased and luxurious model to date, you can rest assured that its DNA is still laced with motorsport heritage. So in this competition, it is by far and away the most engaging, most intense driving experience. The twin turbocharged 3.8 litre V8 engine may lack a bit of oral character at low speed, but as soon as you start chasing the 8,000 plus RPM red line, it acquires speed in a ridiculous manner and sounds like a Formula One car. Unlike most turbocharged engines, this unit seems to get more and more ferocious as the revs build, so on roads like this, it encourages you to push harder in a way that the other two cars just don't really. The visibility in here is incredible, and the steering also plays a major part in that outright pace. Not just because it's so direct, but because it offers the most wonderful clarity. This wheel is permanently moving around in your hands, very subtly. So it gives you texture of the road ahead and lets you just know immediately what the front tyres are doing, what the grip levels are like, so you can be very confident in going into a corner knowing it'll grip. The ride quality too is just sensational, and I don't use that word casually. It's firm yet compliant and never crashy, which, given the speeds we're talking about, is pretty amazing. It's more comfortable and composed than the Aston Martin, yet not as cosseted as the Bentley, because on sharper bumps, this carbon fibre tub can tend to thump on occasion. I know this may look like a bit of a wild card in this contest, but you'll be surprised just how user-friendly and usable this thing is as an everyday proposition.
All right, guys, I think it looks like we've got a pretty close test on our hands. We've come a long way, and I know we're here in an appropriate setting. I don't want to fight about it, but we do have to come up with a verdict. At the moment, it feels like we've almost got a three-way tie. I mean, we call the comfort test neck and neck, but really that has to go to the Bentley, and I think you all know why. And the VIPs certainly seemed impressed with the Aston Martin outside the yacht, but on those roads we just drove on, that McLaren just feels like something else. So decision time.
Yeah, they all offer so many different things to the party. I mean, I really loved the Bentley. To me, it felt like just driving a fast library. You know, it was really serene, but it can be savage on that power delivery. Brakes are really good, and it's so comfortable. I'd actually put the McLaren as the second best Grand Tourer in our company
I think
today.
you're right.
In the traditional sense, because it is also really comfortable, and I mean the drives on those roads that we had.
Yeah, but even on the cruise up, I mean the road noise isn't too bad. It's single pane, the other two are double glazed, but you don't get too much through the cabin. And for a carbon fibre tubbed sports car that's mid-engine, it's incredibly comfortable. I think it's hugely impressive actually.
That's all true, and for me that makes the Aston's job probably the hardest here, because the other two are specialists. You've got the Bentley that's the comfortable one, the McLaren that's the sports car one, but the Aston needs to fall somewhere in the middle and fulfil both roles to an acceptable degree. For me, the thing that absolutely dominates the experience in that car is that V12 engine. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just so fast, so relentless in the way it accelerates, and it sounds
Really,
so amazing.
really exciting. I remember being in some of the other cars and just hearing that wail from the V12 just as you're behind, kind of gently comes through your windscreen. You just think whoever's driving that car is having a good time and is quite busy at the wheel.
Dynamically, the Aston demands too much of you, whereas the McLaren just serves it up on a plate. For me, I like to be challenged when I'm driving, but I like to be challenged by the road, not by my car.
I think it sort of forces you to go searching for the perfect setting somewhere in the suspension and the gearbox, and you just never feel like you quite get it to the point where it's exactly bang on. Not like the McLaren where it's instant. You're just like, I'm in the zone with the car. It's more like you learn it and bits of it come to you, and eventually you start to feel more comfortable. But you never 100% trust it.
But if this was a real Grand Tourer test, I don't think we'd be in any doubt that the winner of this contest would be the Bentley, right?
No argument at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most refined, it's the most comfortable, it's got a lovely sort of waftability to it.
We didn't really need to drive all the way to Scotland to know that the Bentley was the best GT. It's obvious. What I think we need to name as the winner of this test is the best car. And for me, that is the car that is the best feat of engineering.
Yeah, and I think on that basis, there's probably only one clear winner. If you want a GT car that's raw, visceral, and a little bit scary, then you'll love the Aston Martin. The DB11 is a great start to the new era for the company, but they still need to smooth off some of its rougher edges before they can be onto a winner.
If your priorities are comfort, refinement and luxury, or you just need a car that will fit seamlessly into your everyday life, then without doubt the Bentley is the car for you.
For us, the McLaren 570 GT has been the standout car of this test. Granted, it won't be perfect for every GT buyer, but it offers superb handling, a comfortable ride, decent refinement and a driving environment like no other. If you want a car that's more about the drive than the destination, then this is where you should be putting your hard-earned.
Thank you for watching our epic grand tour. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we had fun making it.
If you want to watch more of our cool videos, including the hot hatch mega test, you can click these buttons on the right here.
If you'd like to let us know what you think of our winner, or which cars and which locations you'd like to see in future big group test videos, then please do leave us a comment. And of course, a like and a subscribe wouldn't hurt either.